Thank you. Well, thank you so much for hosting us. This space is beautiful. It's such a perfect place for community gatherings of every type of celebratory activity. We talked about this space about 2 years ago, and when we first met, and I said, I really want to host something here, maybe something for small businesses. And so this has come to fruition. I'm really grateful that you are all here. This is a roundtable, so I will be doing much more listening than talking. I'm here to hear from you, to hear what's on your mind. I just came from National Action Network, where we talked about the legacy of Dr. King. But as you know, the most important part of his legacy was economic opportunity. Everything he tried to accomplish was to level the playing field for Black-owned businesses, for communities left behind, for families that needed every opportunity to finally reach their full God-given potential. And that's so much of what King Day stands for me. And that's what this roundtable is about how do we create generational wealth, how do we create opportunity, how do we create growth, and so an entire community can thrive. I want to thank our borough president for being here, our kick-ass borough president. She is so great. She does everything in the world that we need. She's amazing. So why don't I just turn it over to her quickly for some remarks, and then we'll start the roundtable.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for everyone being here at Sankofa House. I am so excited. Thank you, DJ Spinful, for always hosting us, and to be with our Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. We were both at National Action Network today, really speaking to the work of the life and legacy and labor of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., how he fought for racial equity and social justice in America, lifting up all of God's people. And I'm so grateful that all of our leaders, our commissioners and business leaders and community members, this work is about us moving the Bronx forward in a real, tangible way, focusing on economic development, building up our small businesses, our MWBEs, our entrepreneurs, making sure we have access and opportunity, access to capital and technical assistance so that we can be the economic engine of the city of New York, right here in the Bronx. It is possible, folks. The Bronx means business, as Lisa Soren says from the Chamber of Commerce, and BXEDC, Robert Walsh, and all of our leaders, the Third Avenue bid. We thank you so much, because this is about the future. It is about the Bronx being a global destination. It is about lifting up our economy, creating career pathways, good paying jobs that allow our families to live. And so I thank all of you for your commitment, your determination, and doing this work with purpose and intentionality. We have to be intentional about doing this work and making sure that our businesses, the fabric of our community, are striving and thriving in 25. I welcome you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. The Bronx means business.
Thank you. Well said. So I want to introduce the first contributor of this roundtable, who I think can set the stage for us, our Commissioner Gross. She is the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. It is her job to actually opine and create the incentives and create the programs that are what cultivates small businesses and helps to keep them growing. So I just want to thank her for being here and welcome her.
Thank you so much, Senator. It's such a pleasure to finally meet you. This is our first time meeting. My name is Dinah Shell Gross. I was recently appointed Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. I'm the luckiest woman in New York. Creativity, entrepreneurship, economic opportunity, these are key features of New York City's brand. And it's not just marketing, right? It's real. And so what you see displayed here is just a bit of the rich ecosystem of entrepreneurial and small business support that exists in the city. And you see it extends all the way from our senator's office in Washington, D.C. to the borough president's office. It permeates our city government, and it extends into a rich network of membership organizations and nonprofit organizations that provide support in entrepreneurial initiation, connection, capital access. SBS is very proud to be part of and a driver in that ecosystem. So what's our specific work? We work every day to provide economic mobility and security for all New Yorkers, and we do that by focusing on job seekers, small businesses, and also neighborhood development. So we run a network of 7 New York City Business Solution Centers. They help New Yorkers with financing assistance, business education, commercial lease negotiations, digital marketing, and many more topics that are critical for small businesses. We also operate 17 Workforce One career centers across all 5 boroughs. So in the Adams administration, we've already connected more than 60,000 New Yorkers to good-paying jobs and helped hundreds of employers and small businesses recruit their workforces. And thanks to the resilience of New Yorkers and the work of so many across government, we now have record-breaking job creation in New York City and small business creation citywide. So we're focused on helping those businesses operate successfully in New York City's regulatory environment where we can, to advocate for simplifying small business regulation and cutting through that red tape. So I'm very much looking forward to the discussion here today, taking ideas back to our agency and to City Hall and recommendations for this group. Thank you so much for having me in the Bronx.
Thank you. Instead of me introducing everybody, I'd like you each just introduce yourself for the people on the dais, so you can just tell everyone who you are. We'll start with Lachey.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you also, Borough President, Vanessa Girls, hi. Valerie White from Lisk, New York also says hi. My name is Lachey Young. I am the Senior Director for Programs and Administration for Lisk, New York. We are a community development financial institution. Our main focus is raising capital and investing in historically underinvested communities and people, with a huge focus on entrepreneurship and ownership and working with small businesses. We are a statewide CDFI, but originally we were focused solely in New York City with another office in Buffalo, but 2 years ago we combined and we are now across the state, but quite a bit of our portfolio is focused here in New York City, so glad to be here.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Samuel Balina. I'm the Outreach Marketing Specialist from Small Business Administration. I'm here to give the information of the people who want to expand and grow and get contact with the governments with the SBA. So remember, our service is free. Take advantage, and we're here.
Good morning. My name is Rocky Buchanan. I'm the CEO of the Hip Hop Museum, and we're scheduled to open in 2026. So really excited about that. And I'm really honored to be here with the Senator, the Borough President, and the rest of the esteemed guests on this dais. And I'll talk a little bit about the museum when it's my turn. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Lisa Soren, President of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, overseeing, oh, somebody clapped, I love that. Thank you, Liz. You know, proud to represent hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses here in the Bronx, try to be the voice and listen and share out the news. I had the privilege of sitting for coffee with the Senator, where we really brought to the forefront the fact that the Bronx needs a little more attention. The Bronx would use a lot more money, and it's all about investing in our small businesses, and I'm thrilled that you're here today in this for small businesses, and I'm loving the dais and everybody here today.
Good morning, I'm Rob Walsh. I'm the president of the Bronx Economic Development Corporation. I work in partnership with the borough president and many of the community-based organizations here. Our focus has been on getting capital to small businesses and businesses throughout the Bronx. We have recently initiated a number of new loan programs, including a new microloan program. I think that one of the key issues for us and many of the organizations around is not just getting capital, but getting the business services and technical assistance needed for businesses. We find many of the small businesses that come to us for capital just can't get to the starting line. They need additional help with business plans. They need additional help with marketing. They need additional help in clearing up their credit. So I think this is an area that Commissioner Gross has been laser focused on. It's an area that we need to build more capacity in the Bronx to make that happen.
Pedro Suarez, Executive Director of the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District, one of the oldest and most heavily trafficked business improvement districts in the city. I've been in the role for close to a year now, and for me, I think the priority is having a more holistic approach to economic development and really understanding that it's more than just new businesses and developments. It's also about making sure that people are doing well And if they're doing well, they can open a business, they can do well in school, they can excel in their careers. And so as we think about the challenges, particularly in the South Bronx, it's really about looking at all the different ways to support a community so that it can thrive. And very, very proud to be in this role, and really excited for the conversation today. Thank you.
So why don't we now start with the conversation? So I think you were going to go first. We're going to talk about the Hip Hop Museum, and then you just, if you want to speak, just raise your hand. We'll bring you the microphone, introduce yourself, and ask a question or offer a solution or whatever you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. First, let me just say thank you, Senator, for your support of the Hip Hop Museum. The funding that you provided to us really allowed us to not just accelerate the vision and the mission of the museum, but put it into practical terms, allow us to start executing. We're building a 62,000 square foot state-of-the-art museum that's really going to transform this part of the Bronx in terms of tourism, in terms of economic development. Before we got the grant from the senator, we only had 3 full-time employees. We now have 15, and we're on our way to hiring about another 35 before the end of the year. So, my focus as the CEO of the Hip Hop Museum is really to show the world that hip hop is more than just a culture. It's really a way to transform communities. And we have been doing that with the funding that we got from the senator by executing our educational programs. We had two educational programs that we started to implement around the Bronx and throughout New York City in advance of having our doors open. One is called Back to the Lab, which was a hip-hop science project where we paired leading physicists with hip-hop icons like Grandmaster Flash to show the interrelation between physics and hip-hop. You may not understand it, but there is a commonality between the two. And then the other one was we launched a pilot program called My Camera is My Weapon, really to try to address gun violence in this community, where we actually put cameras in the hands of at-risk youth and let them use their creativity and their ability to communicate through photography and filmmaking. And that was a huge success. And we could not have done that without the funding that we got from Senator Gillibrand. And more importantly, the funding that we got from the senator gave confidence to private corporations that the museum can actually execute what it's trying to do. So we got additional investments from Microsoft and JP Morgan Chase to support many of the programs. They would not have done that if they didn't see that the city, the state, and the federal government are really behind the mission of the museum. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone want to contribute, ask a question, talk about whatever you want to talk about? Shy.
I'll say something.
Go ahead.
So my name is Alexis Pena. I'm the president of Totem Holdings. I've done advocacy for minority companies for over 20 years. One of the things that is great about the Bronx, it is booming, but it's not booming for small businesses or local businesses. A lot of these projects that you see around, there's no local contractors or very little local contractors and very little local employment. And that's something that really needs to be addressed when you fund projects here, such as the Hip Hop Museum, because the GC and the Hip Hop Museum is a Spanish company from overseas. It's not even a New York City company. And if you want to bring jobs and really grow, and help the local community, there's a lot of tools available, like Hub Zone. The entire Bronx is mostly a Hub Zone area, but there's no Hub Zone projects here. That's a federal thing. Also, reforming the SBA bonding and loan program. You used to have something called Veteran Express. I think that's something that should be brought back and include minorities or people who are disadvantaged. There are so many tools, but the problem is that it's easy to say, let's do this, let's do that. And when the answer is right in front of you, people often forget or look away. But SBS has been great. You guys, your bonding program and your capital access program, they subsidize the interest and the fees to allow contractors to be more profitable. So that's something that maybe the SBA and the federal government can learn from. And the outreach with Dan Flores is great, by the way. So that's what I have to say. It's great. Bronx is booming, but it's not booming for Bronxites. I'm from the Bronx, been living here for 50 years. I'm that old. And we should really put teeth into what we say and not just, lipstick and makeup. That's unfortunately a lot of politicians do.
Senator, can I just say one thing quickly? Our general contractor is Elizabeth Velez, the Velez Company, and she's Bronx-based. So she's the one that's leading the construction of the interior of the museum, which starts in April. And we, just a couple months ago, we had a workshop development program inside the museum where we invited all the MWBE contractors that are local to basically learn about the project and come bid on the project. So if you're interested in bidding on the project, you should reach out to Elizabeth Velez.
Pedro Suarez again from the Third Avenue bid. I've been thinking a lot about what does it mean to have a business improvement district in a community. And the landscape, particularly around retail, has shifted dramatically, over the last 5-10 years, especially coming out of the pandemic. And if we think about bids just in terms of framing as a mall, right? Like pretend that it's a place, right, where everyone can get their needs met. I think that has to become much more of an intentional effort. That a bid is not just a place where you can buy things or shop. It really needs to be a place where everyone's needs are met, where there are experiences and social connections, from healthcare to workforce development, to the use of public space, which is a huge one. And it's particularly challenging in the South Bronx, particularly in the hub, the use of public space, because of a lot of the challenges around homelessness and the opioid epidemic. But we really have to start thinking about bids differently because the retail landscape is just different now. It cannot just be about shopping. It really has to be a place, it really has to be a place where you come here and, like I said, you get all of your needs met. And so that's the way that I'm thinking about business improvement districts, but a lot of it is visioning and really coming together around the table with different stakeholders to understand that. I think a lot of businesses are sort of locked into that mindset of, let's get it back to the way it used to be 20, 30 years ago, and it's not gonna work, so yeah.
Alexis, you raised such a good issue because when we were passing that big infrastructure law to spend literally $1 trillion on building things, I put in one provision that gave a preference if you hired local workers. And we've been trying to implement that in New York State constantly, and it's a fight everywhere you go. So for example, in Buffalo, when we're doing these huge changes to the waterfront and huge changes to how the roads travel, they're dividing Black communities. They were built in the Robert Moses era, so they were very harmful to communities, to economic growth, to everything. And we have to work with the unions to have more local members being cultivated right out of school, out of high school, to become union members so that Black and brown kids become the construction workers that get to do these jobs, because otherwise they don't even get asked to, come to the apprenticeship program. It's a big structural challenge. And so I appreciate what you said about how you are trying very hard to have a general contractor who is local, but that means we have to build up the capabilities within the community to meet the needs of that application. So one of the ideas that these organizations can do is improve the ability to vie for these contracts, to improve the ability for local businesses to compete for federal contracts. I will try to put that local provision in every bill I ever write, every bill I ever vote on. It's going to be hard in this administration because they have a war on DEI, and so anything that's for Black and brown communities, they're going to have a war on, which is obscene and absurd, but we'll push back and we'll fight back. But you're very right to say it, and it's good that you've said it in front of these stakeholders because these are the ones who actually implement our policies. But to your point, Pedro, I think that you're right about community. So 30 years ago, 40 years ago, communities were centered around churches. Most people don't go to church anymore. So there's no real hub that brings the community because that faith-based community is barely existing. You know, if you go into a church today, and I go almost every Sunday to different churches across New York City, in the Bronx, in Harlem, in Brooklyn, all across the city, and most people are over 60. There's very few young people. There might be maybe 5 whose grandparents have brought their younger teenagers or young adults to church that day. So we need to figure out what's the replacement of that. What's the what's similar that could be the draw. I think things like childcare could be really important. Having childcare that's not just Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We need 24/7, 7 days a week, childcare, because people have shift work. People go to work at 7 p.m. People have to work through, we need far more flexibility in community care. And that's something that any not-for-profit could be part of the solution, creating community care. I think having federal, I don't know the right word, like outposts or kiosks or, help centers would be really valuable. So like having the social services that the federal government's supposed to provide, whether it's the SNAP program for better food so people can sign up for it, whether it's lie heaps so they can heat their homes in the winter, whether it's, again, access to contracting to know what are the big deals that are happening in the next 5 years and what bids are open. Like even basic information I think is key. So I'd love to work with you and the stakeholders at the table on coming up with what does the community look like today. Shops are great, but services are better, and something that pulls a community together like a playground or a rec center or a childcare center, something that brings your family to that place, because that's what makes it feel part of your community. That's what makes it feel appealing. It's where young families want to go. It's where they're going to want to spend their money. They're going to want to go to that cafe. They're going to want to go to that little cute shop that makes the cutest presents, as opposed to spending all their money online, which is, I think, something like 80% of America today spends almost all their money online. So these were 2 great issues. We'll raise the next one.
Thank you so much. I want to just touch on a couple of SBS programs and then some recent announcements that are relevant to issues that have been raised. Number one, this week was one of the most important kind of municipal government releases of the year, which is the January plan, so the preliminary budget. And we'd fought hard in the preliminary budget for a few resources that are important for this conversation. SBS provides grants for neighborhood development to small bids and other community-based development organizations that are focused on creating thriving, safe commercial districts where small businesses can thrive, residents can express their culture, can explore jobs, can experience goods and services. And we succeeded this week in having that budget baseline for the first time. $5.3 million annually this year and the out years for neighborhood development grants to nonprofits. And we've already delivered about $1 million to the Bronx this year. We want to do far more, and we'll be able to plan those grant programs now to work on the reimbursement basis, that we can work with the CBOs, put out the applications this year for work for next fiscal year, so we don't have those delays in paying the nonprofits who are delivering the work. So we're very excited about that. Another recent policy change in the city, community hiring. Community hiring requires that city vendors have goals for local hiring and low-income hiring on jobs that are being created by the contracting. SBS is going to be part of administering that work, and we're very excited to roll it out in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce Development. It will be a sea change in local impacts of New York City spending. We administer a program in connection with our city MWBE program, which is a very robust 30-year-old policy called the APEX program. This is a federally funded program managed through DOD. It allows us to provide technical assistance on government contracting to all firms, and focused on city contracting, state contracting, and also federal contracting. We've delivered that program in multiple boroughs for probably 15 years. And we recently added the Bronx as into our grant area, and so we're staffing up to increase our Apex team to provide more of those resources right here in the Bronx. I think you'll be as pleased with those services, Alexis, as you have been with our bond readiness program and other MWBE programs. And by the way, our MWBE loan program, the feature of it that is critical is that we cap the interest at 3%. We lend MWBEs up to $1 million upfront capital to allow them to mobilize to perform on city contracts so that they can meet the government's slow payment timelines, and then we buy down the interest. It's not cheap to offer that kind of capital, but we think it's critical, and it's been essential to our MWBEs.
Impressive. Did you want to, Michael, you have something? Sure. Do you want to say something? Oh, pause 1 second.
Oh, no. I was just going to say it's really important for all of our small businesses to take advantage of every program out there. I think the challenge is education and outreach. And so a critical part of building communities, stabilizing our business improvement districts is to make sure that we really embark on comprehensive education. We go into hard to reach areas. And I'm so glad the commissioner talked about paying our non-for-profits on time, which is huge because many of our small businesses do not have the ability to upfront money. And so if we can help them on the front end, it will truly have a real beneficial impact on the long term.
That's a great program.
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand, for organizing this roundtable here in the beautiful South Bronx. And the Bronx, a city of 1.5 million people. I'm Michael Maxnabi, the Executive Director of BronxNet, the multimedia public service network of the people of the Bronx. Most of the people in this room have been on BronxNet in one way or the other, either in our studios, and we open up our studio doors to the community, or with our field teams, and we have a dynamic team here covering this roundtable, and Nova, Kyrie, Walter and Andrea. And I want to just say that we are providing workforce training for the public, experiential learning for middle school, high school, and college students. Elementary students come through our studio doors, and a community needs assessment determined that the people of the South Bronx also need the access to the media and technology services and the career-building experiential learning BronxNet provides. So we built a beautiful studio not far from here, the BronxNet Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx at La Central, with immersive media studios, XR production stages, a Windows on the Bronx studio, learning labs, innovation lab, and more open to the public. It's allowing people to aspire to thrive, to raise your voice, to get off the sidelines. Participatory media is at the heart of what we do. And too often, in an era of media consolidation and toxic algorithms, it's really the scandals and the ambulance chasing that gets the headlines in mainstream media. So that's why it's so important to have networks by, for, and about communities like BronxNet. And there are networks like BronxNet across the city, state, and nation that are in crisis right now. And it's because of the churn in the media industry, and we want to make sure we protect local voices. So there is a Senate and congressional bill called the Protecting Community TV Act, which is being reintroduced this session. And congratulations on your appointment to the Senate Appropriations Committee. A round of applause, Senator Gillibrand, representing New York. This is big. And we also, in New York State, have legislation that is key for our communities to update outdated law called the Tech Equity Access Media Act. It's providing broadband infrastructure in rural communities that desperately need it. It's providing support for community media networks like BronxNet, as well as providing revenue for our cities and towns that are much needed, and revenue for the state. So I just want to let everybody know that our studio doors are open, and we are stronger together with forums like this to talk about what's happening. And we are here for you. We are here for the community. And it's about helping our community be part of positive transformation, which I see happening here right now. So thank you to our beautiful Bronx Borough Presidents, Vanessa L. Gibson, and Rob Walsh. We're celebrating Bronx Restaurant Week, February 18th, Savor the Bronx, and we're broadcasting all these fabulous restaurants all across the Bronx on BronxNet. And it's the partnership with Lisa and the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, where we're broadcasting important information about small business. You know, this is big. This is network programming by, for, and about the community, where if you live in the Bronx, know that you can take media education workshops at BronxNet and project your voice, raise your voice from the Bronx to the world. These studio doors are for the public. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, you, and then George, and then Liz.
Greetings, everyone. Pleasure to see you all. I'm George Nunez, founder and CEO of Bronx Tech Hub. Just want to give a major shout out to DJ Spinfo and Sankofa, Senator Gillibrand, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and everyone else in the room. First off, I want to say this is a beautiful convening because we all finally get a chance to come together and see how we can make the Bronx a better borough. And this shouldn't stop here. We should continue to collaborate and communicate as well. One thing I would say is one of the biggest issues in the Bronx, I would probably say, is tech. That's probably the reason why I started Bronx Tech Hub. I'll give a quick background on my story, and then I'll get into why I started it. So, grew up in the South Bronx. Grew up homeless, public housing. Went to the Eagle Academy for Young Men. And then after that, I ended up going to Binghamton University, majored in finance, worked on Wall Street, consultant for startups, and then after that, got into product management. One thing I realized throughout my life is that I had to go chase opportunities. Opportunities necessarily didn't come to me, and then so I always thought to myself, is like, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have mentors, if I didn't have exposure, so I had to go out and get it. As Sankofa would once say, go back and get it, right? So I was like, how do I go back to the South Bronx and give back to my community and give them exposure? And that's when I started Bronx Tech Hub. Bronx Tech Hub is a nonprofit organization, 501c3, where we're building the tech ecosystem in the Bronx, focused on workforce development, education, entrepreneurial access. And as we see in New York with the rise of AI, we even see it in New York State with the Empire AI opportunity. None of that trickled down to the Bronx, right? Even how much money they spend on climate tech, none of that trickles down to the Bronx. So how do we, as an ecosystem, continue to provide these opportunities for our community where they get that exposure, they get these internships, and they get these jobs, right? We're actually working with the BXEDC to launch a climate tech fellowship for Bronx CUNY students where they'll get upskilled, trained, and then they'll get placed for a summer internship, right? I'll definitely continue to partner with different organizations like Fix It with Piggy, where they're teaching kids how to code, or Clear Scope Tech, where they're teaching students about cybersecurity and IT. But it's like, how do we get that funding so that we help support these organizations, but we also provide the economic opportunity for our people? So that's something I just wanted to put out there.
Very inspiring, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for anybody who wants federal money, you can apply for it. And we have an expert in our office named Ryan, whose job is all it is to just apply for federal money. So you should be working with our office for any of these opportunities. So for you specifically, there's going to be grants for tech startups. There's going to be some kind of job training program. There might be an ability to access computers. Like, there's all sorts of things, but it's specific. So you have to meet with our office. I'd like my staff to stand up and introduce themselves. We have 4 staffers in the room. I want them all to introduce themselves. Go ahead, CJ.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm CJ. I'm the Senior Advisor to U.S. Senator, covering economic development, housing, African American issues, faith-based outreach, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you all.
And CJ is your liaison with Ryan, who's in DC. And so together, you reach out to CJ, he sets up a call with Ryan, you work together on what money you need, and then we scan all federal programs and say, can we apply for that money? It's how we got the money for the Hip Hop Museum. It's how this, and that was a $5 million grant. And it wasn't a loan, it was free. It was straight up free money to do the work he's doing, because that then lets him leverage, as you said, money from JP Morgan and all the other fancy people. It matters. So, and you don't get the money first go. It always is so frustrating. And so you have to have a little bit of resilience. You got to keep applying and apply for multiple grants until you get one. Once you get one, money flows all the time because it creates that credibility. So it's worth spending the time. Most of you will not have a grants writer on your staff. We cannot write your grants for you, but we can help you. These guys can help you write your grants. All the not-for-profits on economic development can help you write your grants. We can show you the way. We just can't do it for you. So go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Jacinta Chen, Special Advisor. I work with CJ on economic development as well as infrastructure, energy, and the environment for the Senator.
And Robbie, where'd you go?
I'm Robbie Reddy, Senior Advisor to Senator Gillibrand. We all have our business cards that they have our phone numbers on, so feel free to reach out. I can hand them out as well. So.
Anyone else from the team here? Comms. Introduce yourself.
I'm Adrienne. I'm the press secretary.
Yeah, so if your business needs to be lifted up, we can do events at your space. That's how we got here. DJ told me all about the space. I said, look, I'm coming, we do something here, we're gonna lift it up. We have social media. Like, I have 2 million followers on Twitter. That's better than nothing. You know, I only have like 300,000 on Instagram. It's fairly lame, but it doesn't matter. I will lift it up. But again, I will help you in whatever help you need. Don't be shy about asking for things. Don't be shy about being critical. Say, this program's not working for me. I can't get access to the Capitol. I can't get the support I need. That's how I write my legislation. No good ideas come from Washington. All good ideas come from the people. That's why I'm here. That's why I prefer roundtables. Because if you don't know who I am and you haven't met my staff, you can't give me the ideas that I need to actually pass meaningful legislation. The other thing that's interesting about me you might not know is I'm exceedingly bipartisan. So even though we're entering, let's just say, a dark period with a president who may not agree with our goals and ambitions, I will find Republicans who share a value that we've talked about today. I will get it done. So do not lose hope, and don't be afraid to ask for anything you need. It doesn't matter what it is. And I like criticism. I like hearing what's not working, because that's how, the point that she said was so good about she will offer the 3% interest rate so that you're not holding or waiting for money. Like, that was a fix clearly inspired by facts on the ground, because someone said the not-for-profits cannot afford to not be paid on time. That's a solution that came from facts on the ground. So I can't write the right solution if I don't know the facts on the ground. So.
A couple of things I wanted to mention, and appreciate that call out. I also wanted to give a shout out to the venues and the spaces that believed in the vision and believed where I was trying to go with Bronx Tech Hub. So definitely want to give a shout out to Michael Maxnabi from BronxNet, who's been supporting Bronx Tech Hub, DJ Spinfo at Sankofa, who didn't charge me not a dime or very minimal cost to host events like Bronx Tech Week at Sankofa Haus, and definitely Nikki from the Dugout BX, who's supported us as well. The other thing I want to mention is, want to follow up because we have events throughout the year. Even Sam from SBA, we've hosted events with New York Tech Week for founders who can't get venture capital money and they still need grants. They still need non-dilutive funding. So want to follow up with your team to see how we can secure that funding as we host these events to impact and inform our community. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to mention. Thank you.
I just want to jump in real quick. Like I said, my name is DJ Spinfo, the owner of the space. We're in the beginning phase of creating our foundation. The foundation's mission statement is Sankofa Haus is the catalyst that nurtures the innate connection between the community and its residents. And my question to the senator is, how often can we have these roundtables, whether it's you or CJ or whomever, because these are the conversations that will help highlight the Bronx, because there's a lot of magic here, as you can see from George and many others like Mike. There's thousands of us here, but many of us are scrambling, trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. Although I have this wonderful location, been here for 3 years, I've only got one grant for $10,000 from Verizon. I've been struggling, trying to figure it out. So as we all navigate this thing, because there's going to be a plethora of entrepreneurs after this year. Like, no disrespect to any of these brands, but many big businesses are going to be closing down soon, whether it's the TJ Maxx's or Marshalls. The retail industry isn't the same like it used to be, so we need to start creating spaces and putting funding towards the creatives that are going to create the spaces that are going to replace the churches, like you mentioned, the spaces where people can have conversations and do the yoga, do the meditation, bring their families, have fun, and feel safe. just so you guys can understand what the word house is for this particular space, is spelled H-A-U-S. It's the German word house. It is a space for conversation, a space for community, a space for family. So once again, thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate the senator for taking his time with all of us, but we do need these conversations as often as possible in the South Bronx because we can create some magic and be an example for the rest of the country.
So the follow-up meeting to this will be a grants workshop. So we will have the same thing like this. We could have it here or wherever else we want to have it. And we will have all the grants team and both the SBA team here to talk to people about how to apply for money. Liz, you're up.
Great to see you, Senator, and I just want to say it's remarkable to have so many women in power at the table, and that's why stuff's getting done. No offense to any men, because I love the guys here too. And it's wonderful to talk about money coming to the Bronx. That's the most important thing. I just want to raise a tiny little issue about money coming out of our pockets to the state, and that's just the issue of congestion pricing. I am all in on congestion pricing. I support congestion pricing. The food industry, us here in the Bronx, small businesses, medium-sized business, we get whacked at a multiple that is just incredible. So obviously we're not lobbying strong enough. We will. I know your office is going to be working on it later this week, but I just want to say again, we support it, but it's got to be more equitable to support our small business and medium-sized businesses here.
Yeah. So I would urge people to be heard on congestion pricing, because you would be surprised how many people in New York City that I've talked to doesn't think it's a problem in any way, because they don't commute into the city, they don't have vendors that are coming into the city, their businesses don't depend on that travel. And so I've really asked our local legislators to listen to other voices, because Liz, your perspective is not being heard by your local electeds. It's just not. It's literally not. I meet with all our local electeds at all times, and I always say, what are you hearing about congestion pricing? Oh, people are happy, because they're not hearing about the problematic cases. So it is really important to be highly informed, know the impact of all legislation, and be really very conversant with your local electeds, because this law was passed by our legislature. This was a legislative-driven law by our state assembly and state senate. It was put into place with not a lot of nuance, to be perfectly honest, and there were very few carve-outs. They created a commission for carve-outs, but the people on the commission is the MTA. They don't want any carve-outs. They need all the money because they're desperate for money. I'm the appropriator on transportation. I would rather them get more money from the federal government than from New Yorkers. I would much rather that. I don't want New Yorkers to feel this burden, this tax, especially businesses that need vendors coming in and out. So Liz and everyone here, one thing not to lose sight of is you must have constant communication with your local electeds about what your goals are, how policies affect you, because oftentimes the better and better we do, the more we believe government doesn't relate to us. I'm telling you, industries as they grow, as you become more empowered, as you have more money, you think, doesn't affect me. If you're not in constant communication with your assembly member, your city council member, your mayor occasionally, your borough president, your voices aren't being heard. And they will make a mistake, an unintended consequence. And so I don't think the intention on congestion pricing was bad. They just want good air quality. They want money for mass transit, all things we agree on. But the burden is real for many groups of people. And I've been meeting with those many groups of people, and all of that's unintended. And we have to find solutions, but it's from the problem of not being heard up front with the right legislature at the right time.
So I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit to what was discussed before, again, from the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. There's a few things that were touched on that we had a previous conversation. So overall, the Bronx Chamber is really working to develop a voice for the businesses. I think that all the points that were said are accurate. A lot of development, a lot of things going on in the Bronx, but our people are still being left behind. I've always said that while everything was going on beautifully in other boroughs, we weren't being spoken to. Now all of a sudden, everybody realizes the value the Bronx has, and you're still not recognizing the fact that we have incredible people to work, we have small businesses. And I'll take that in steps, right? I know the senator just finished saying education on funding, education on how to access. That's one thing that we've been really really working on. We partner with SBS, but one of the programs that we have, Small Business Resource Network, is about that. It's about going door to door, promoting the businesses of SBS and the programs that they offer, but it's really about education. If you don't know where to get the information or how to fight, it's impossible for you to do the right thing, right? So one of the key aspects that we've developed is advocacy in the chamber. It is blowing up because exactly what the senator says. If you don't know how to work the bureaucracy of our city government, state government, federal government, it's not going to happen. We can't hear our voices. So honestly, I say it's about time we step up and we join forces, right? Because all of us individually have a great voice, but collectively is how we get things done. On the technology side, and everybody hears me saying that, I love my counterparts in the other chambers. The 5-Chamber Alliance is a powerhouse, but I'm always going to speak for the Bronx. And they received, my other counterparts, millions of dollars in technology for grants hosted by one of the chambers. I say that we need that money here so that organizations like you can come to the chamber and we can have that conversation, and we need the support of the federal government to do it, right? There's a lot of money out there. Workforce development, absolutely. One of the biggest fight, and I sit on the Workforce Development Commission for the city, is we're training and a lot of organizations are getting money, and don't get me wrong, everybody's doing a great job. But my thing is, are we training to the jobs that are available? Are we looking at having those conversations with businesses that need the employees, and then we train for that? No, we're not. If I'm doing my surveys, I'm going around, a lot of organizations need to just have the conversation first, talk to businesses. Where are we lacking the information so that we can train properly our own people? Our developers start in the Bronx, and you're not allowed to move outside the Bronx until you use us first. Minority certification, I'm proud to say my office certifies, and now we're doing state certifications, but micro businesses are being left out of the conversation. And the commissioner has heard me over and over again. If we are certifying small businesses, micro businesses, under 20, under 10 employees, how are we going to get them these contracts if the contracts are going to these mega multi-million, billion-dollar companies? They should be mandated to use all of us. And the commissioners heard me, the borough president heard me. We have so much to offer, and it's about putting all those advocacies. And Senator Gillibrand has heard me. I want to focus on the Bronx. The other boroughs are getting a lot of money. Maybe they're joined better, I don't know, but it's our turn, and you hear me on my soapbox, it is our turn to get our micro businesses developed, applying for federal funding. We are all about it. You know that the Small Business Resource Network applied to the federal as a 5-chamber alliance. These monies are imperative so that we as a chamber can help you. You can tell us what's needed, and we can voice. We can educate you on how to work with our elected officials. They are more than willing to sit with you, but you have to have an agenda. You have to be specific. Bitching and moaning, we do that all the time, but actual concrete concerns that we can take back and have these really serious conversation, and then you can hold accountability, because then you're talking facts and not feelings, right? Because we all feel a certain way, but we really need to hold accountability. Education and outreach, that's what we do on all levels. Advocacy, small business, developing, certification, city and state, and I'd really like to have the discussion on federal minority certifications. That's the next level with everything that's going on. So we are here to champion. We love the support of our elected officials. SBS is a partner. Bronx CDC, maybe, I like you. Rob Walsh. But it is, I want to say one thing that I'm so proud of in the Bronx is that we know how to work together. The Bronx means business, that's something that we've been sharing, but we really do know how to work together. We just have to keep the conversation, keep it consistent, because if we don't, we lose the message.
So I just wanted to tell everyone the story of my journey. The museum is 16 years in the making. It's not something that just came about and happened overnight. I basically started this project with $0, and it really took a lot of dedication and commitment to a vision and a mission. And you have to be able to sell that purpose to other folks, to get them to believe, to support you. And that's what I did early on. I found a company in Michigan that worked with Rockstar Video Games, and I had a conversation with the CEO of that company. And he heard my passion about the museum and offered to do my website pro bono. So it's really about understanding that you are your best asset. If you really believe in the mission and what you're doing for, tech and the community, how do you sell and market yourself so that other people believe in your mission and your purpose? I found my current legal team is pro bono. They do all my verification of documents, grants. They make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And I get all this stuff pro bono. There are people out there that will support you if you know how to sell yourself and sell your purpose.
And network. Network.
Pedro, close this out. This is going to be our last comment, but it's not the end of the event. I want to be able to take photos with anybody who wants a photo, and I want people to be able to have done one-on-one conversations with the representatives from all the agencies here. So we're not ending, but I am leaving in about 10 minutes. So I'll take photos with anybody who wants or take personal questions. Pedro, close this out.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize the necessity for public-private partnerships. We often think about it as a special thing, as an initiative, and it's really critical, I think, to the future of work. As we think about how younger generations are thinking about work, it's drastically different from how I think about it, which is drastically different from how my parents thought about it. And so when we think about being really intentional about career pathways, a lot of different industries are working in silos. So the education, higher education, elementary, employers, what's going on in the home. There's a lot of different things happening at the same time, and we really have to align those things. How are we setting people up for success with the trends of the day, the data, looking at, is this person that, that's going to college and taking loans, are they on a path to success 5-10 years from now? And so just want to encourage that it's really necessary to really incentivize public-private partnerships between employers, the government, nonprofits, in solving these really important issues. Thank you.
Jay, do you want to say something before we close out? Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Excellent. Tim, yes. Thank you.
Looking at two name tags, sorry.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Thank you, Senator, for being here. Wonderful to see so many Bronx folks, many I know. My name is Tim Gamry, CEO of Elevate Digital Consultancy based here in the Bronx. Also the co-founder and director of a program that we're piloting called the Community Enterprise Accelerator. And I've been in the Bronx, back in the Bronx, born here, came back to teach as a teacher at elementary school, but then came back again after being in technology and nonprofit. And what I saw is there's so much, everybody talks about the potential and the resources. It's amazing. So I've been working with businesses. Alexis, I met in a program here that was JP Morgan Chase funded, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I've been just navigating and building relationships with entrepreneurs and with all of the different stakeholders and seeing that the potential is there, but the coordination and connection, it's missing. So the Fix It with Piggy, the businesses at the Bronx Business Tech Incubator, where I also am, amazing space. How many people are there on a given day? It's empty. So the resources at SBS, amazing amount of resources. How do we help connect? So I think there's new infrastructure needed. So the CEA, what we're piloting, it's a cohort-based program, and it's funded by Hearst, so speaking to the public-private partnership, where we're identifying 5 entrepreneurs in the Bronx who are community-based, who are committed to the Bronx, and we're giving them $15,000 each in grant funding and 6 months of customized support, where we're providing technical assistance, but also building social capital and relationships. So, for example, we were at City Hall in December with Commissioner Gross, introducing those businesses to the resources and to the contacts, and for them, they were like, we've never been to City Hall. So we're wrapping around and investing in them because it's really leadership development of the entrepreneurs. And we're connecting the schools, Comp Sci High, and interns into the program. and connecting the dots. And we're open sourcing this. So some of you are probably on the newsletter list, the catalyst that I send out. I'm about to send out a new visual that helps visualize this map of resources because it's incredible. So I want to help facilitate that. But I think there needs to be investment in that infrastructure to connect across. Like, it's new infrastructure to ensure this federal, city, state, community level that there's a coordinating happening, and it's just not there. So it's some infrastructure that helps liaise to the communities and the resources to be guides.
Great
So,
idea. And
yeah.
that's a great idea, because that's the kind of thing I can create legislation to fund grants to do stuff like that these guys could apply for to build what you just said. So like, that's exactly, because you've just identified the Death Valley of entrepreneurship here in the Bronx. This is where people fall off. They don't have the connections, they don't have the coordination, they don't have the information. That's a great idea. So I'd love to work with you on that idea. Go ahead, Rob. And then I gotta take photos, or we'll skip photos. Yeah.
I have one alarming issue that I need to raise.
Go ahead. Oh, who's got it? Rob.
There's a number of people who have buildings here who are investing in the Bronx. I think at Bronx Create Hub, I see one of our folks who, this gentleman here has 90 units of makers, entrepreneurs, artists, small businesses, blocks from here that have opened up. The insurance rates are going sky high. I don't know what your insurance was, but it went from what?
This year.
Insurance went up 300% this year.
300% this year.
And why is workman comp?
Let me finish. Okay, let's keep. So this is an issue that we could use help on, because something like that where he's invested. You have a business, right outside of Yankee Stadium. When they need to renew, they're getting hit really hard.
And who's the typical insurer for a Bronx business? Which companies do you guys use?
There's a lot of companies that actually left the Bronx within the last year. CNA, I know, just left. Hartford. There's a lot of companies that are actually leaving the Bronx, and they're not insuring the Bronx.
Yeah, okay, so it's the new state labor law that's creating the problem. Okay, again, back to unintended consequence of thoughtful ideas that come from our legislature. Unintended consequence. So I will work on this with all of you. The insurance industry is slowly dying. So we have a big structural problem. You saw what happened with the fires in California. You saw what's happening in the flooding all across the United States. The insurance industry is not going to survive, period, in the next 10 years. I don't think it's going to exist. So there's going to be a change that's going to happen with banks and insurance, and I don't think banks are going to be able to require insurance for a lot of things anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. Now, what happens often is the federal government takes insurance out of the private sector because no one will offer it. So we've done the terrorism insurance, we've done the crop insurance. Two types of insurance that are not economic. Insurance companies can't make money, they won't offer it. They're not going to offer flood insurance anymore. They're not going to offer fire insurance anymore. These are bygone eras. So the real discussion is what's the future of insurance, period? And should we be requiring it? Is it going to be buyer beware? Is it going to be you're going to pay your loss no matter what your loss is and not have an insurer? That might be the future of our businesses. I don't know. I just know this is a huge structural problem. So anybody who has an insurance issue, talk to Jacinta. She will collate all the comments, the workman's comp problems, the unintended consequences from the recent law. Let's collate the information. I will then provide advocacy either to the legislature or the governor, or if we need a federal fix, which we will need with insurance for sure, I will work on a federal fix. But that's the kind of thing I can get bipartisan support on. These type of business structural problems, I can find common ground here and begin to fix them. I just need real life examples so that when I'm going to the floor of the Senate to give a speech about it, I can say, this is what's happened to 6 businesses in the Bronx. And so I need specifics. So please, Jacinta's going to be the person in charge of insurance, so get her card.
We will get it to you.
And Rob, so this will be our point person. Any other structural business problems like that? outside of what we already talked about, access to capital and,
I have one. Yeah, I want to
what's your last one?
Elias Everett, South Bronx Commercial Real Estate. We do office leasing, retail leasing, and industrial leasing throughout the Bronx. I want to point out a big issue that's happened in the last 5 years. There's certain areas in the Bronx, and also in New York City, but mainly in the Bronx, where there were big retail areas, specifically the hub at 149th Street, where the plaza is. It has become overrun, and businesses cannot operate there because it is very disgusting, bad for children. Businesses do not want to go there. We do deals in the immediate area. I'm talking, a lot of you know what I'm talking about. This is a big issue that needs to be addressed. I'm talking specifically, plazas are not monitored where homeless people and drug addicts just sleep there. And this is a major area where there is a subway system, and this needs to be fixed. Thank you.
So this is a big issue.
Big issue.
It's not just here, it's across the state.
Understood, but these are plazas that are just overrun.
Destroyed, yeah.
Destroyed. This was built 5 years ago.
Yes, so
it's a
let's-
big problem.
Let's focus on that specific plaza.
Great.
But the problem's bigger than the plaza because we have huge mental health issues in this.
I understand that.
Yeah.
If you went into Washington Square Park during the pandemic, it was an open-air drug market and it was a homeless shelter. It's not anymore. It's not anymore because there's a presence of police there.
Perfect.
That's why.
So
Thank
let's work on a community written letter to the mayor asking for police presence, asking for increased sanitation workers, asking for more response to the beds that are needed for people who are so chronically homeless because of mental illness. These are the big problems, but we can do a specific letter advocating for resources for that one place.
Perfect.
Yeah, so and that should be signed, someone should lead the letter, someone in this room, lead the letter to and then we can send it to the mayor, asking the mayor for resources. I'm happy to support it for that one problem. But the bigger problem is this issue of how do we address homelessness, mental illness.
I'm not looking to address the overall issue. I'm looking these specific concentrated areas where it becomes a problem for retail.
You need to address the overall issue. So what I'm trying to say to you is I get you want law enforcement in your corner, which you have a right to. You have a right to. Everybody has a right to. Everybody wants law enforcement in their corner. Everyone in our state. And everyone wants solutions, but I'm telling you, the problem is affordable housing, which is Vanessa and I work on. The problem is homelessness. The problem is mental illness. And the problem is, again, bigger, structural, the loss of faith communities, the loss of that we care about our neighbor, the loss that we pick up after our dog, the loss that we care about one another. So I'm telling you, I will solve your problem, but you, as a business leader, must care about everybody's problem.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I did some research and I'm taking opinions. The market is saturated with opinions. I don't know what it means, especially here in the Bronx, to be federally funded. I didn't even know I can apply until you just said in front of me a few minutes ago that you can apply.
It's a technical thing. You apply to a federal form. They are very demanding. These are not, like the federal government freaks out if they give money to somebody who shouldn't have got it. Like that's the end of the world for them. So they are very cumbersome. It is not easy. The SBA is a much better lens in general because they are built to receive you. The city and the state have SBA organizations that are built to receive you better. But I have tried to make it easier for people to apply for federal grants, and that's what my staff's for. So that's why you get to know CJ. He'll help you navigate. Last question in the back. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Eugene Green, President, ClearScope Technology Solutions. I'll keep this really brief. Some of our questions are federal questions. We're 8A certified on GSA schedule, so we do IT consulting, managed service, cybersecurity. Some of the issues that we have been facing and seeing is that there's been a lack of set-asides in the Bronx area in order to do large projects. Others are that we've been in the program for a year, although our business was founded in 2013, and we've done, I've had clients from Blue Cross Blue Shield, pretty large clients, Chase, all over the country. However, trying to get business in the state of New York is a little bit difficult. Also, there's something else coming up called CMMC. If you do government contracting, what that is basically you have to be cybersecurity certified to do business with the DOD, right? And then there's also no training happening here. So like I said, we do business in different areas, Massachusetts, DC, and here. We're going to be helping host some CMMC training. Maybe we could do something here, or if there's any offerings, because this is serious. If we're really trying to build wealth in this community, the easiest way is to do it with doing business with the United States government.
Do you do cybersecurity training to get certified?
Yes, we will be forming that.
So she's going to be having a big cybersecurity summit, so she'll be in contact with you about it. I'm going to try to participate in it. I'm on the intelligence committee and our services, so I'm very focused on cybersecurity. One of the pieces of legislation we wanted to write, like literally 5 years ago, 10 years ago, was money so that you can do your cybersecurity, because very few small businesses can afford it. We are getting crushed by international, foreign criminal networks who can go into any one of your businesses, steal all your data,
Absolutely.
maybe even steal your money, and you're screwed. And if you don't pay that ransomware of $10,000 a month, they're just going to hit you every 3 months. It is disgraceful how vulnerable the United States is to these international networks. So we will work with you, and I'll work on legislation to meet the need of getting most of you having better cybersecurity that's more affordable, because it's not affordable today for anybody.
And actually, we provide affordable cybersecurity services, and if you do cyber with us, we also offer cybersecurity insurance. So we're doing everything in that space to help small businesses. Feel free to reach out. Thank you for your time.
We got to do questions, but these guys are staying.